Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where the streaming wars continue to rage. Although up until now, we've been blind to what's going on out there. Not like the box office where we get weekly reports. But two companies are battling it out to emerge as someone who can give us a picture, an unbiased picture. Up until now, we've had to rely on these companies to give us information to really kind of settle on who's a winner. And it's some very interesting information, although take it with a grain of salt, because these companies are having to use outside sources to ascertain what's going on. They don't actually have access to the numbers from these companies. It's very interesting. All right, so for decades, we're going to start with Nielsen. And you've heard that name before because Nielsen for decades was the source when it comes to ratings information for network television. But as network television goes the way of the dodo, nobody cared about what Nielsen was discovering anymore. Remember, people were a Nielsen family. You'd get a box. They'd ask you what you watched. It was a big deal. And it's important to know how these things are doing because it affects ad rates. You don't want to, advertisers don't want to just listen to the company as to what's going on. They want to know what shows are hot from a source that's impartial. So that's why and also agents want to be able to point to stuff, and also it helps to be able to just use that to get further work. You can be proud to have a show or a movie that's doing so well. And I think people still don't quite trust the headlines coming from the companies themselves, especially when they're like Netflix. I think it says if you watch like the first 20 seconds or so of something, that counts as a view, and that of course coincides with the automatic pre-roll. So that's kind of cheating. So anyway, Nielsen is trying to impose some order on a world that has none, and in the process, make a name for themselves yet again. And HBO Max trying to get in on this fight. They're just trying to get into the fight. They're like, hey guys, we want to be in here too. So on Friday, they not only announced that they had finally reached a deal with Legendary to keep Godzilla vs. Kong as a simultaneous release in theaters and on HBO Max, but they also said, hey, we're moving this movie up, which is done. It was supposed to be released last year, but they're moving it up to March 26th. Why would they do that? Well, as exciting as Warner Brothers' 2021 announcement was in December, Disney Plus is set to own Fridays for the foreseeable future, and that's just with Marvel shows alone, pretty much. We're not getting another Star Wars show until the end of the year with Boba Fett. And then Netflix just announced a new movie every week. And that's also just movies, not even counting series that Netflix is going to debut. So bottom line, HBO Max still doesn't have enough original new content to compete. That's why the Godzilla vs. Kong announcement for March likely doesn't affect the Snyder Cut. Again, we're not going to get any real clarification on the Snyder Cut, I believe, until I've heard at the beginning of February. That's when that's going to start to finally come into official focus. But I don't think you have to worry about it being affected by Godzilla vs. Kong because HBO Max needs a lot of hot original new content on the service. So suddenly March is starting to look like everybody else's calendar in streaming land if you could have both the Snyder Cut and Godzilla vs. Kong in March. Not only is HBO Max way behind Netflix and Disney in terms of development and launch, but they have to split their originals with HBO proper. What the heck? This is a huge problem, I think, for the service. If Disney or Netflix make an original show, it goes straight to their streaming services. But at Warner Media, their original content is split between HBO and HBO Max. Now, of course, HBO content is available on HBO Max, but that divides their subscribers. And a lot of people can get traditional HBO for free as part of their cable package. In other words, you don't need to subscribe to HBO Max to get a decent chunk of the overall new content coming to the world of HBO, and that's a problem. Furthermore, both HBO and HBO Max are only available basically in the United States. HBO Max is only in the United States, and HBO has a couple of, foreign versions of itself. But for the most part, they're domestic only, while Netflix and Disney Plus are global services. There are deals in place to distribute HBO content overseas, but so far HBO Max, for the most part, has struggled to get its content out beyond the United States, much to the frustration of everyone outside the United States. Raised by Wolves, Flight Attendant, if you don't live in the USA, you haven't seen these shows, which is a damn shame because they're really good. Now, but you've seen the HBO shows, which is why also a lot of companies probably want their content to, outside companies are like, I'd prefer for my show to be an HBO show, please, companies and talent because I know it'll reach a bigger audience. Like, Flight Attendant was just as good as The Undoing, but nobody paid attention to The Flight Attendant because it had such limited accessibility. Now back to Nielsen, they released a top 10 list for 2020 streaming overall this past week, covering original series, acquired series, and movies. And this list really shows the strengths of both Netflix and Disney+. The Coke and Pepsi of streaming, as we discussed on a live stream this past week. And I would also say, ironically, the Godzilla vs. Kong. Now, in original series and acquired series, Netflix just obliterated everybody else, with Disney Plus only able to get one original series on the list, The Mandalorian. Although, to be fair, in 2020, Disney Plus really only had one original series, so it will be interesting to see what happens in 2021 when Marvel rains down 6 original series in a single year. That's crazy. I hope you don't overdo it, Feige. Especially because I think WandaVision had a softer debut than The Mandalorian. We'll talk about that a little bit at the end of the episode, but I think it's too early to have a verdict on WandaVision's popularity, especially because it's going to change so dramatically over the course of the series. All right, so anyway, it's fantastic to see Ozark at the top of this list of original shows. A show that has seemed to have a cult status, but surprise, what do you know? It's actually very popular. And on the flip side, a show which seems to have universal appeal, The Umbrella Academy, is a bit lower down than I'd have anticipated. It might be a little bit more narrow in its appeal. You know, Ozark has broad appeal. You know, it's more like traditional television, where Umbrella Academy is very comic booky. And then look at The Crown. As it gets to more current royals, or at least royal history that more people are familiar with globally, look at that surge in popularity in the United States. This is a United States list. That's incredible. Of all the shows here, only Longmire of originals, only Longmire is done, having ended back in 2017, in fact, so it's particularly impressive to see it still so popular today. Tiger King is a one-off, obviously, although never say never, but all these other shows or their universes are continuing for at least one more season. Now, let's look at acquired series. Every single one here is on Netflix. It's interesting not to see The Simpsons here. That's Disney Plus's most popular series by far, and it couldn't crack acquired series. So that just shows you the business that Netflix acquired series are doing. Although I would say that Schitt's Creek, though, is only technically an acquired series because it's current, it's fresh out of Canada. It originates in Canada, so that's why it really should be in the other category, especially because it would have done so well there, as you'll see in just a moment, but it unfortunately has to go under acquired. And of course, though, Netflix just lost The Office to Peacock, and you can see here what a devastating blow that is to the service. Netflix is hoping to replace the loss of not just their number one acquired show, but this is the number one show in all of streaming. Look at this. Nielsen combined streaming and acquired into an overall top 15, and by far and away, the Office show on Netflix, it has the top spot. It'll be very interesting to see what happens now that it's gone over to Peacock, because Peacock, I don't think, has nearly the same, audience. Also, Peacock is not included. These streaming, these analytic companies don't cover HBO Max. They don't cover Peacock. So what's going to happen? And will followers follow The Office over to Peacock, as NBC Universal is hoping, or Comcast is the overall parent company there? Or will they switch their allegiance to a news show? That's what Netflix is hoping, because of course they had that huge deal to acquire Seinfeld, which will switch over from Hulu to Netflix sometime this year. They haven't set an official date. Although Seinfeld, as I just said, has been on Hulu, and over on this top 15 list, Seinfeld is nowhere to be found here. Neither is any show on Hulu or on Amazon Prime, because they only cover 4 services, Nielsen. They weren't able to crack the top 15 at all. That is incredible. Incredible. Now, as for Disney Plus, here they come. Here comes their category where they dominate, and that's in streaming movies. Because thanks to unlocking the Disney Vault, plus kids and some adults, you know who you are, watching these movies on a loop, that has led to Disney Plus dominating this category with 7 of the top 10. I'm so happy to see 2019's Aladdin in there. Hurry up with that sequel! And Mina Massoud's agent should send this list to every single studio and production company and be like, see? People love my client. Netflix was able to get 2 Illumination animated films on there, which is great for, although we'll see what happens with those going down the line. That's, of course, now an NBC Universal they have a deal with NBC Universal, so those movies could eventually find themselves over on Peacock. But as for now, they're on Netflix. Secret Life of Pets, The Grinch. I watched that this year. What a great movie. Love it. It's now, not adjusting for inflation, the most successful holiday movie of all time at the box office. It's so good. I'd say they'd make a sequel, but the Seuss property just went over to Warner Brothers because they didn't think Universal was doing enough with them. So that sucks. But anyway, that was on the service until December, and now it's actually only available on PVOD. It did not go to Peacock, which I find weird. A lot of, as the older companies that have been around since the beginning of Hollywood, or close to that, try to get into streaming, they have all this red tape that's mucking them up. Really, in particular with Warner Brothers too. That's what you're seeing with HBO Max. That's not allowing them to be as nimble as Netflix does. The reason it's not a problem for Disney is that Disney has always had such control over their product that they haven't had those kind of other deals. Now look, they have only one original film for Netflix on the list, Spencer Confidential. What? That movie was awful. But you wonder why Mark Wahlberg keeps working. Look at that. That's amazing. That's really incredible. Winston Duke should also use this information to help his career, and I would specifically try to parlay that into a bigger role in Black Panther 2. But I think that's probably what's going to happen anyway. But what about Extraction, which is the most watched original Netflix movie of all time, according to Netflix? Well, as I told you, Nielsen only measures ratings in the United States, so that means Extraction did particularly well overseas. Now, my instinct was that India superpowered its viewership because India loves entertainment. They, of course, have their own really flourishing entertainment empire in movies and TV, but they import a lot too. Love Marvel in India. DC too, but not to the same degree. Of course, Indian audiences loved Extraction and were very proud of the film, and that it used a lot of local talent and spotlit the area, even if it put it through that offensive filter. But so I looked up the top countries for Netflix subscribers after the United States, and interestingly, India wasn't in the top 5. It goes the United States, Brazil, the UK, Mexico, and then France. I thought that was pretty interesting, and I wanted to throw that in there. Now, 7 Park Data is the other company trying to emerge as a leader in streaming ratings data. And they released a December top 10. And I'm including this because it shows how Disney Plus was able to dominate the service as it begins to get its footing with both a series and several new original movies. And this proves that Disney Plus could indeed be a genuine threat to Netflix in the coming year once they are fully operational. So as you can see, 2 movies exclusive to Disney Plus in December did extremely well. Soul and even Godmothered. Godmothered was a lot of fun. I'm not surprised that it did well. But that's excellent for the service and shows a real path forward. But what about Wonder Woman 1984, which came out the same day as Soul, yet is nowhere on this list? Well, again, 7 Park Data doesn't cover HBO Max just yet. So we have no idea how it did. They got to get HBO Max into these data. They should call them up because they need to be on these charts. I mean, maybe they looked at their own numbers and they're like, they have an idea of where they would be on the charts. So maybe that's the issue. But it's a big red flag not to be included in this conversation. But what we do know? We know how Wonder Woman 1984 is doing in theaters. And the answer is not well. In its 4th weekend, a month out, Wonder Woman 1984 has lost the top spot to the latest Liam Neeson movie, which opened around 4 million, which is what we've been seeing as typical for most pandemic movies. Although I have to say, 4th week out for Wonder Woman, that means it's just about to end its availability on HBO Max. So next weekend, we'll see if it pops up a little bit at the box office because it's no longer available on streaming. But speaking of being simultaneously available on streaming, it looks like Wonder Woman 1984 will be tied with Uni's The Croods 2, not just domestic, but also worldwide, where Wonder Woman 1984 is not available on streaming, although it did just hit the UK. This is fascinating to me because The Croods 2 hit theaters on November 25th and then just 17 days later became available on PVOD for rental, that's December 18th, at about the same price for a month of HBO Max. So the price point on the two of them were about the same. The Croods 2 was actually a little bit more expensive. And it's been doing very well on PVOD. So that proves that simultaneous digital availability with theatrical release doesn't totally KO a movie's box office if that movie connects with audiences. The first Croods made about $300 million less than the first Wonder Woman in theaters, so there should have been that similar disparity here as well. We'll have to wait until January 27th when AT&T has their investor day. Hopefully we'll get an update on HBO Max subscribers then. They should have released it by now, though. Maybe they will once Wonder Woman 1984 wraps up its run on the service. So maybe this coming week. Now, as for what people are streaming this past week, Universal had a big win here. I told you I think they have the best strategy right now. News of the World and Promising Young Woman both hit PVOD for $20 rentals apiece 17 days after their theatrical releases, and their numbers 1 and 3 respectively. While the Croods 2 is still going strong, still in the top 10, and still at a $20 rental. And look who it is, Nate Parker. Remember him? Whose career was going so well with The Birth of a Nation, fabulous film, but his career was derailed by revelations about his past. Well, he hasn't given up. Here he directs and stars in a new film, and it debuted this weekend at number 4 on iTunes. That's very. I don't know if he can get beyond that, but he can. That's strong. He still has the semblance of a career. That's good for him. Then on Netflix, their one new original movie a week plan is off to a good start. Promising Pieces of a Woman, which was their first new movie of the year, never hit number 1. But Outside the Wire did, their second original movie of the year. And controversial true crime series Night Stalker is also a big hit, while Bridgerton and Francis Lupin continue to go strong. And it's worth noting that 3 of the top 4 here feature black leads. As for what's coming up, we've got the original movie on Netflix this week, White Tiger. I'm going to be reviewing it. I'm very excited. That also looks excellent. While WandaVision continues on Disney+. As I said earlier, I feel that WandaVision seems like a softer hit out of the gate than The Mandalorian. But it didn't have that Baby Yoda type reveal in its first episode or first 2 episodes, which they aired. So we'll see what happens as the series progresses. What do you think? What do you think of WandaVision's debut compared to The Mandalorian? What have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And what do you think of these streaming developments? Share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.